Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Above Ground Radio. I have a guest with me this week, Domain.
Hi everybody, my name's Domain. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, and I've been making music with Shugrin over the last couple of weeks slash months.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about music later. For now, we're going to get into our first song, which is Powerful by Critizen.
My first okay, so around the 11th and probably like 11th through I think 15th bar, there was the chord progression, but there was this random note that was falling under the chord progression. Could you replay that really quick? Okay, maybe it's a little bit farther in, but there's this random note that hits really out of
Yeah, I know what you
there.
were talking about, though.
And
I
then also, yeah, that riser moving into no drop was really lackluster, and I
mhm.
think I was sort of expecting something more. Hey, Saffron, can you not knock stuff off my desk? Good down.
I think if you just took this riser and slid it back a little bit, because it seems like it's just kind of in the middle, or you moved it
Right.
over here or something.
Yeah.
But other than that, I
So
think the structure of the track is pretty good.
the structure was good. I'm so whenever it comes to music, I am very much a person that I like weird shit and I like people to jump out their comfort zone. To me, unfortunately, this felt very generic and very just like something I've heard 1,000 times before. And
Yeah,
like if that's what you're making, that's fine. But I think that jump out of your comfort zone, put some weird sounds in there, put
yeah,
some like nice drum fills and maybe a 4 bar phrase with something different. But like
yeah. I think that
also
would
the
be good.
transition, right? The
A little
transition
bit.
into the new track from the like with the riser,
Hmm.
on top of it being lackluster, not going into an actual drop, just like replaying that same drum loop with the chord progression made me not want to listen anymore because it's like, okay, I've already heard this. I want
Yeah,
something new.
yeah. I
The
think.
added like lead horn was cool.
Yeah, I think if you added some drum fills every 8 bars, 16 bars or something, or little lead fills in here, just that way it's not the same thing over and over again, and you have some
Right.
variation. But thank you for the submission. We're going to move on to the next one now. We have Goodels. Sounds like elevator music 2.0. Great submission. Thank you very much. What
It
did you
was
think
a
of that one?
it was a very it was very somber, and it was very like I feel like I'm driving down a road in a forest.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. Very dreamy with the
Very dreamy.
plucks and the reverb and the whole atmosphere.
My feedback is I think that the intro and the outro were a little bit too long for my taste, personally.
Yeah.
Um, I think that you have to have that grasp. Like you want to pull somebody in with the main girth of the song early, because
Yeah,
the
I
beginning of
agree.
the song does not reflect the mid part of the song at all.
Hmm.
Also, there is this very large bass sound that took up a very large amount of the mix to my ears, and it felt like it didn't have enough variation to be taking up that much of the mix.
Mm.
In my personal opinion, it just felt like, okay, like I keep hearing the same notes being played, and I think it changed up towards the end, but by then, honestly, I had already lost interest. It's very long. It felt
It
very
is.
long, at least. It felt like it dragged on for a while.
Yeah, I think shortening the intro would be really good, and then maybe halfway through your sort of main section, you just add a variation to the melody, a B section, change the bass. I don't know, something to keep the same theme going,
Yeah,
but still switch it up. But I really liked it overall.
I did
A
too.
great
Yeah,
track.
no, it was great.
So before we move on to the next one, we're just gonna do a little chat, talk about some music-related stuff. So what have you been up to in terms of producing? Have you had any specific projects in mind or singles, anything that you're working on?
Yeah, I'm always trying to work on stuff. I just got back from like a 5-day break where I was only playing my instruments, so
Oh
no
wow,
producing in my DAW, and that was really needed. And I came back with a fresh outlook, and I feel a lot more involved in what I'm making. I released a song yesterday, actually. I made it in like 45 minutes.
oh wow,
It's on
that's
it's on
impressive.
my Shosha Lock SoundCloud, the one where I put more experimental, and like instrumental things. But I'm working on a beat tape which will be released sometime in October. And then I'm also working on an actual mixtape with my vocals and everything for Spot Pollock. So
Awesome,
those will
wow,
be
that is a
seen
lot.
within the next month, 2 months probably.
Well, we'll
Feeling
have the
pretty good
social
about them.
link. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
We'll have
No,
the
go ahead.
social
Yeah.
link in the description so you can check out that most recent song. And then everything else in the future, be sure to keep a lookout for. Do you have any sort of plan in terms of future longer projects? Like, how long is this mixtape going to be? Because when I hear mixtape, I tend to think of shorter, but I also am not very experienced in that realm of
I'm
things.
thinking 7 songs, like
Okay.
max. We'll see though. It really depends. My plan is to make 20, and then I'm gonna pick from them, pick
Oh,
whatever's
wow.
best.
Okay.
I'm fleshing out 20 demos, and then from the demos I'll pick what I want to actually push
Yeah.
into actually like a full song. Just because I think for me, I'm very sporadic when it comes to making music, and I make
Hmm.
things very quickly, especially demos. I'll make a demo in 20 minutes. So I want to make all of these and just get like the meat out, and then once I figure out what I want the whole project to look and sound like, everything else will be put to the side, and I'll focus on the mixing and mastering and actually maintaining the elements of those 7 that I picked. So
That's a good way to go about it, and in terms of really narrowing down so you know what you want in terms with the sound before you because I've always traditionally just really planned it out and then worked and made all the tracks and then put all the tracks that I made on the album. Like there'll be a couple
Mhm.
ones that won't make the cut, but I've never really done it that way. So that's interesting. I think that's a cool approach because then you can pick out of what you already have.
Right. I don't ever think about what I'm gonna make when I make it. I literally hop into my DAW and I throw sounds together. Because
Yeah.
every time you come, at least in my experience, every time I come up with an actual plan to make a song, I want it to sound and feel like this thing. It
Hmm.
does not come out that way. And so like
Oh, I
having the
agree.
expectation of it just it also sort of gets rid of my creative freedom. If I just jump in my DAW and I'm throwing if I'm throwing a sample of somebody chewing chips or something and I turn that into a loop, like that's what it's going to be instead of me like trying to capture an emotion. So
Yeah, exactly. That's a good mindset to have because if you're too focused on exactly what you have in your head, it's hard to get that out sometimes. I think so. Okay, well, with that, we're gonna move on to our next song. We have "Lift Off" by Haslo. Okay, thank you for the submission, Haslo. So first off, I think the it's a good song. I just think it is way too long, and I don't think that I don't want you to take any offense to that. I know that's kind of typical of the house genre too, is to kind of have the really long intros and outros to mix in. Um, but I think it definitely needs to be cut down, and even if you decide not to cut it down, because that is kind of part of the, like I said, the culture to have a really long intro and outro. I liked the whole countdown liftoff thing that you did. I with the theme of the track, the counting down, the breakdown. It was great. It was suspenseful, but then you just went back to the same thing that you did in the intro.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
like
that's
I
what
was
I
really
would say.
expecting something new to come in, but then it was the same melody and the same instruments. So it just
Yeah.
felt like we waited this whole time to build back to the beginning. If you would just change this up so you have a different melody, different instruments, some switch there, I think that would just really make the track, honestly.
I agree. Yeah, that was definitely my biggest feedback. Because the way I'm gonna think about it is, if I wanted to re-listen to the beginning of the song, I would have just replayed the song.
Yeah.
And when you have some type of disruption in the flow, where you have someone counting down, I want to experience something completely different.
Yeah.
And when I don't, I end up getting really frustrated. I honestly, that shit frustrated me.
Yeah.
I and
Because
I,
I'm excited.
it's
Like, you start counting
right.
down from 10. I'm like, okay, well, what's going to happen once we
Yeah,
hit one?
what's about to
Something better
happen?
happen, you know? Especially since this whole
Um,
track feels like it's like a rave theme. You want it to go ape shit as soon as you hit zero.
Also, I don't know. So because I'm listening through Discord.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's mono, and
That's
if it
not.
is, it's not. So
No.
stereo. So then my feedback is, fucking use the stereo that you have. Like some of that shit felt like it needed to be panned, especially like
Oh,
the
it's really
arcs came in.
stereo. I think you're just in mono. You can't see the imagery either, but it's pretty wide with
Is
all
it
the
pretty
reverb and
wide?
stuff. Yeah,
It,
I think
is
that's
there
just
is there
Discord.
panning? Is there a lot of movement?
Yeah, you'll see once you
Okay.
upload. Not much movement, but it's I'd say not quite 45 degrees pan pretty much most of the time because the delay is ping pong on
Okay.
most things, and
Yeah.
the
So
the
maybe it's just
reverb is
the
pretty
way that.
wide. Yeah, it's probably
That
just
would be
Discord.
but yeah, yeah. If that's just Discord, then that's fine. Like
Hmm.
everything was there. It had like I love the way that the drums changed. Like in the third quarter of the song, where like it felt like there was like some bongos and there was like some
Oh
sick
yeah, some
drum
of the
break.
fills. Hmm.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
some
I like
really
the
nice
fills.
fills. And actually, when I say third quarter of the song, I mean before that drop that
Oh,
replayed this. Like
so
I'm
like
not
around
even
here.
thinking about the rest of it at this point. Like to me, the whole song was like right before the drop.
Yeah,
Because like you sort of had all the elements there, and I think that you could have just cut it right at that drop or completely changed it. But other than that,
yeah,
like it needed some difference after that.
yeah. I think right here just definitely switch it up. And I think
Also,
honestly, because you have a lot of a reverb and delay on most of the elements, especially in the
yeah,
intro. I think if on this drop you make things a lot cleaner, so a lot drier,
stiffen it a
then
little bit.
yeah, then it'll feel like it's closer up in the mix, and it'll also switch up the atmosphere. Even if you do end up using some more of the same instruments, if you switch it up a little bit, different melody, same instruments, but a different mix, it'll sound different enough that it's like, okay, we've justified the countdown, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very great way to put it. Justify that countdown. Justify. It's like that first. I think it was the first beat where there was that riser. Justify the riser. There needs to be
Yeah,
a
yeah,
reason for it being there.
exactly.
So, just yeah. Think about why you've done something. Does this
Hmm.
add or change anything? And especially with something like music, where the point. I mean, to me, the point of music is to make you feel something.
Yeah,
So I don't want to feel bored. And
yeah. I,
you
I, I
know
mean,
that may be some harsh feedback, but towards the second, like once that drop came, I was bored, and that is my
yeah,
brutally honest feedback.
yeah. And I think if you mean the same kind of board that I do, where I think the track itself it's a good creative idea. It's just it doesn't change enough. The
It does
idea
not
is
change.
good, but
Right.
even the same idea over and over, no matter what it is, it's just gonna get boring. Even if it's the most interesting musical phrase in the world or whatever, if it's over and over and over and it doesn't change, then you're gonna lose people's attention.
Especially if
So
it's over and over without my I guess, consent in a way, right? Because like when you play something over and over by yourself, that's different. If I've replayed the song because I liked it, there's a
Oh
different
yeah.
type of reaction, you know,
Hmm.
psychologically. So like that there's a like I'm not saying that you have to think about all that when you're making music. Essentially, just make shit different.
Yeah,
That's it.
agreed. Add some variation. Okay, but thank you for the submission. We are kind of ripping into them today. We appreciate the submissions. We will give the feedback just because I know when uh, I give feedback, even though sometimes it can be uncomfortable to give critical feedback, I know I would appreciate it because,
Yeah.
especially coming from other producers, because most of the feedback that I get is from people who don't know thing one about music. They're like, "Oh, you got to make it sound like this." I'm like, "I don't. Your opinion doesn't matter to me because you aren't educated in this field." So I know the type of feedback I appreciate most is from fellow producers who actually know what
Right.
they're talking about. So but keep the submissions coming, and be sure to check out everybody in the description. And last submission here, we have Strawberry Dreams by Nephalem, which is actually on our channel right now.
Love you,
So go
Nephilim.
check that out. Here we
Wow.
great track. Love it.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I really like that one. That one. Okay, so as far as I will say, like, as far as structure goes, this was my favorite track out of all of the ones we've reviewed because it had the simplicity and it wasn't too much. Like, if you look at the length between all of
Yeah.
these different tracks and then the difference in variety that Nephalem did, that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about like justify the reason for doing something. He
Yeah,
had
like
that
you can see the
breakdown in that first
sections.
half. Yeah, you can, and they completely changed. Like that second one was like a fucking like I don't know, it felt like, almost like a trap like mob beat. Like I'm at the
Yeah.
club, like that type of shit.
But you
Um,
could still see how it was related to the first one. So it's like
right.
still thematically connected, but it switched up enough that I was like, okay, this is interesting. I like it.
The whole atmosphere changed, and I love that. My feedback for what I would change, or at least for what I would pay attention to, the first half of the song, your melodic instruments felt very stocky. The bass felt like I mean, they just felt like stock sounds you would find in FL Studio. They didn't sound original to me, and they just sounded like things I would stray away from using because it to me it sounds almost like a toy instrument, and maybe that's just my ear,
The
but
music
that's
box
like I
sort
would
of
say,
sound.
huh?
The music box sort of sound.
Yeah, yeah, like the pinging, the din 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 din, like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was very music boxy, and then the bass was also just felt very stocky. Like it was very I don't even know how to explain it. It just felt like uh I don't know,
The
but like
bass.
it
Yeah,
worked.
okay.
I just that like that's and also this feedback I'm providing for everybody. This is me being like really critical. This is me being very nitpicky because I want you to think about things that maybe you wouldn't. I want everybody to improve when you're getting feedback for your music because I
Yeah.
like you were saying it's sort of what I would want. So this is me being very nitpicky. The tracks are great.
They are.
This one I really liked.
Yeah,
Um
and you also
and
have
that's
you
my only
guys.
feedback.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, that was it.
Now, yeah, I just want people to remember also that it is also our opinion too. Like I try to give as much
Yeah.
objective mixing feedback as possible, but it is also my opinion. So I mean, if you don't like what I have to say, you don't have to listen. It's not like I'm right or anything. So it's just
And that goes with
how
any
I
feedback
think.
too.
Yeah. But I like the song. I think the drums, especially in the second half, were really tight. It was really a nice switch up. I think that this section here, this breakdown, just the first part before you have the drums, this part could be half as long. Because I was kind of expecting drums to come in like right at this section right here. So if you cut this, I think 8 bars or whatever that is, and just go straight to the drums there. But honestly, it wasn't long enough that it really made that much of a difference.
Everything felt fluid.
Yeah, agreed. Well, thank you for tuning in to Above Ground Radio. Be sure to go and check out all of the artists as well as domain in the description. If you want to submit your own music onto Above Ground, then join us on Discord. We'll have a link in the description. And be sure to subscribe so you can see all of our newest releases. Thank you, and we will see you next time.